fulfilling all your wishes. You could design for yourself what would be the most ecstatic life.
Yeah, guess I gotta get from the jump.
On set with us is Leinster. How are you?
I'm great, Aisha Wells, and how are you?
I'm good, thank you so much. Every week he comes with these fancy shirts and I'm like, can he get any more fly?
I'll try to.
I like this one though, the color is unique.
Thank you very much, I appreciate
and the tie
it.
always match all the line able. So how are you doing this week?
I'm great, I really can't complain at all.
How was business this week?
Business has been great.
Awesome.
Also, yes.
Awesome indeed. We've been getting some feedback from callers and listeners. They've been reaching out. So I know you have another packed program with us and we never seem to have enough time. So we're just going to jump straight inside.
Alright, well, this afternoon, as you rightly said, we have customers reaching out to me. I spoke with a gentleman this week and I decided I wanted to talk a little bit about what he and I chatted about.
Excellent.
We often have the theory that what our role and function is not important. And it relates to what you were discussing last week, which we started to discuss about the hiring of employees.
Yeah.
What is the correct process to hire employees? I even had a conversation today and I was saying we put our emphasis on, let's say, the military, for example. You wouldn't want or you would not feel comfortable living in a country where the military is not properly trained. You believe the military is supposed to be just shy of being invincible. You want them being trained to the best. We've often seen movies where they would create these universal soldiers or, guys who could think faster, be stronger, be smarter than the average person. And to some degree, I believe there's a modicum of truth to it. And I think it should also be implemented into the workplace. We don't take the necessary time and emphasis to train our employees, or even as an employer to be trained as well. We think, okay, I have a business idea, I have a good business plan, maybe I have some money, I have the funding down, and that's it.
We just hire some people to work for me.
We just hire some people. Now, in some instances, it may work out, but then it's no different than you just throw in your cards and hoping that one of them happens to strike gold, as it were. But with this method of training yourself as well as training your employees, I believe it's a more surefire way to ensure success from both yourself and also your employees. Now, as a business owner, which I'll touch on first, you may think, well, the business idea I have there may not be anybody to train me in that field. Maybe your idea is one of innovation. It's a new idea. The concept is new. It's totally different. But I can almost guarantee you that even if your idea is new and original, there is some basis, some foundation that you can learn that will allow you to grow even faster than just playing it off the top of your head. Because any business person who has any merit of being a business owner would tell you they failed. They've lost, and within losing they learn. I believe the more you fail, which may sound wrong to the wrong person, but the more you fail, the more you learn, because you learn more from failure than from success.
Agreed.
If you were just to put up an ad and say, I'm hiring today, and you get 50 people answering your ad, and you only needed 15, and the 15 that you picked were great, then you wouldn't learn anything. However, if you were to hire staff and realize the staff does not speak properly, they don't respect punctuality, their dress code isn't appropriate, you would now realize, okay, I need to be more detailed in my ad. Maybe I need an ad that's targeting a specific employee base. So as an employer, I would believe that some sort of training should be taken. Now, we think, okay, if I need to be trained, maybe I need to go to a college, maybe I need to go to a fancy school in order to be trained as an employer. That's not actually true. Anytime you start to gain knowledge or you start to follow or learn from someone who's done it, whether it be right or wrong, you're actually learning, you're creating or expanding your knowledge base, as it were. And it would be the same for you if you went to school. There would be a certain base, a certain knowledge base that you would acquire, and then you can expand from that.
Gotcha.
So as an employer, it would be in your best interest to seek some sort of training, whether it be learning from Google. There's a phrase out there that says, after God is Google, because almost all the information you require
Is there?
it's available on Google. YouTube is another amazing platform where you can learn, and I've said that before, you can learn almost anything you need to learn to educate yourself, even to know what not to do. And sometimes I look at mistakes, like, well, I'm a business person, obviously. I look at companies that have failed. Everyone talks about the successes, but I like to think about the companies that have made billions of dollars and gone bankrupt overnight. And you learn from the lessons, the things that they would have done. One of the things you would see is that they have no training.
Got you.
The employers themselves had no training. So therefore, the staff they hired, even though it worked because they just picked up their axe and they threw it, and they struck gold once or twice, they believe, okay, that's the strategy.
That's the method, yeah.
That's the method. And when they stop hitting gold or oil, as it were, they keep striking, believing that
Eventually, I'm going to strike
I'm going to strike again. And by the time you run through 1,000 strikes, you realize that's it. There's no more gold, no more oil. Sources have been depleted. Persons are crying, being sent home. Companies bankrupt. Because, again, there was no actual process. There was no discipline into that which you do. On the employer's side of it, the employee's side of it, it's the same. Your employees need to be trained. What I would also advise, or I advise most business owners now, let your employees understand that your business is adaptable. Meaning, you may come into work today. Let's say I'm working for you and you say, okay, Lance, I need you here by 5 o'clock. And after you doing some research, we've run it for a couple of weeks, you realize, I really need you here 4:45. Now, if your employees believe that you said 5 o'clock at first and I must reach here for 5, and they start to create issues, you realize you don't have that adaptability, and then what happens now, you cannot become more effective. Because you asking them to come out for 15 minutes earlier could be the determining factor of their performance output.
Basically.
At the end of the day.
As to what they have to do.
Correct. Maybe you just want to have breakfast. You reach to work sometimes. I mean,
You want to unwind.
You want to unwind. You
Yeah.
have breakfast. Some women, my sister says it all the time, don't speak to her before she has some morning coffee. She cannot function, start to work until she has some morning coffee. So that 15 minutes is going to work in her favor because
Gotcha.
she's more productive afterwards. So certain things like that would be advisable to let your employees know. Your employees should want to be trained. If they are unwilling to be trained, if they have any issues about being trained or learning, I would advise against hiring them. Because if you cannot teach them, or what we would say, if you don't have a high teachable index, we're unable to get you from where you are to where we need you to be. Another thing that I believe employers do wrong with employees is that we try to hire persons only skilled or already skilled in that field. I can tell you from playing sports, if you play with a particular coach for a number of years, and let's say you're on a team that was losing, and you go to a new coach, one of the things the new coach will tell you is forget everything you know. Now that might sound weird, like, okay, I was a star back home. Okay, what were your stats? 0 for 82. So you lost all the games, but you're telling me you're a star. So therefore you need to forget everything that you know.
Yeah.
Let us retrain you, retrain your mind, retrain the way you think. And
I've realized as well, every situation does not happen the same. It doesn't play out the same.
right.
You may be on a job that you are familiar with or may have done 100 times before, but there is something unique about every single experience. And
Correct.
I try so hard to tell my workers that. So because you dealt with 100 bedridden patients, you're thinking that you deal with all of them the same way.
Right.
When in fact every patient is different.
Correct.
Depending on how you care for this patient or how you handle this patient will determine whether they are comfortable with you.
True.
I have had clients who were terrified with dealing with a particular worker because of how she handled them
Mm-hmm.
where, bedridden patients was concerned. And it was becoming a problem. Like I had her on one job and I realized the person wasn't comfortable. I said, okay, so maybe I'll just move her to another.
Right.
It took me 3 different moves to realize that she was the issue. But that's just me. Let me take me out of the equation and go right back to you.
No, but that is very, very true. And as an employer, you're doing the correct thing by analyzing the situation and realizing there are different variables to every situation. Almost all scenarios, there's a formula to it. If you look at certain shows, they would now show you persons aren't relying so much on just natural skill or gut, as it were, and they're now using math and science to solve certain problems that they would have, whether it be in a particular crime or whether it be to solve a problem at the job site. They would now use science and math. And the reason for that is because there's a formula. The formula would also entail attention to detail. You being able to notice, okay, if these variables are the same, the only thing I would have changed would have been my worker, and there's still the issue. So I need to remove the worker, put someone else in, and see if it gives me a different result.
Teresa Joseph is saying employees must understand that they are part of the business. They will receive their profit or salary when they invest their time. Coffee, she's smiling.
I think she probably likes coffee as well. Yeah, and it's true. That's another good point that she raised. Employees need to feel that they are a part of the business. They need to understand that what they do affects the company. We often have employees thinking, okay, I want the old adage, as people would often say, or the old mantra is, work done dead, or I need a raise. Boss, I could get a raise. Now, my question would be to you, anybody who asks me for a raise, what have you done?
Listen, like you're talking to me today.
Right.
I have this worker
Mm-hmm.
who, in my opinion, I think she is just doing the job for profit, for the money. She
Right.
really isn't into caring for the patient. And I've observed this with her over a period of time. However, she's reliable.
Okay.
Because she's in it for profit, she's a beast. She shows up on time, she does what she has to do because she knows she's in it for profit.
Correct.
However, we lost out on a client because of her greed for profit. For instance, when we took the opportunity from the client, we gave him one figure that she agreed upon.
Right.
She agreed that she was going to be working for X dollars, and he agreed that X dollars was within his budget, and this is what we were going with. The day before the job started, she decided, you see me, some of these patients has been miserable, I think I only want to work for Y dollars.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, but we gave him X as a quote, and he agreed on X. It was within his budget. How do we now go back to him with no justifiable reason? You haven't even started the job as yet as to why he needs to pay Y. Well, I just saying, let us try and see. I said, okay. Immediately, I already knew that we were going to lose this client, but I wanted her to see the outcome of her actions.
Yes.
Because she's good at what she does, I don't want to lose her. Because she's good.
She's good.
However, I need her to see that sometimes it's not always about profit. Because with this particular client, had we delivered properly, this would have been an ongoing situation.
Right.
So, over a period of time, she would have been a permanent fixture in his home, and her salary would not have been an issue.
Correct.
We went to him and said, well, listen, she decided that she's interested in working with you, but she can work for Y. He didn't respond to that message yet.
Wow.
And that was sent to him last year in November.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I'm saying that to say to you, sometimes workers must understand that they must show some sort of care for what they do, and it shouldn't always be about profit.
Well, it shouldn't. I mean, yes, you're coming to work, you're exchanging your time for a salary, as it were, whether you get paid weekly, daily, fortnightly, monthly, however you get paid. You are exchanging your time for a salary. Now, my question is to you, let's say you were to hire me, and I believe I am worth, let's say, $1,000 a
Got
day.
you.
Now, I am telling you that I am worth $1,000 a day. You haven't seen it.
Got you.
Now, the person that I am now, if I was to come to your business place to assess you, and I said, Aisha I'm gonna charge you $10,000, because you know who Leinster Campbell is of Len Capital Certificates. You're gonna sign that check.
Because you're worth it.
You're not gonna think twice. My reputation, I have already put in the work. I've already labored. I tell my workers, I call it keeping your head down and just grinding.
Yeah.
So for me, even with employees, now they may say, yeah, well, I have bills to pay, I have rent to pay, I have food to buy. I understand that. I have been there. But what I have found is that when you put down your head and you work and you work and you work, you learn something. You learn something about yourself because you're working not just for the salary, you're working for yourself.
And I believe if he had gotten the opportunity to see her at work,
Mm-hmm.
if we had approached him the following month about the increase, he would have given it to her.
Of course, because, once you work, persons will take notice. Yes, they are the cheapskates, they are persons that don't want to pay. But it's what we would call making yourself a valuable asset that you don't want to let go. I had a young lady came to work for me, and the moment she came into work, she could do 4 or 5 things, as opposed to the other guys or other females who could only do one thing. Now, the person who can do 4 or 5 different tasks very well will always be kept on, as opposed to the one person who could do one job
she can
perfect.
fit in anywhere. If anybody don't show up, you know that she's there.
And again, as you said, if she's reliable and her work shows it, then it's a different conversation we can have. You can now approach the customer with tact and say, Mr. X, Y, and Z, we agreed at this price. However, we wanted you to see what we give. And we now believe that based on the value we would have given you, we think it should now be, and give him the option to decide. And I believe if your work shows it, especially in your case with home care, where now, because of the times you don't want every and anyone in your home, it may be something you're willing to consider. And you can even throw in what I will call buttering up the deal by saying, when you do make this increase, however, this is not going to be done every month.
Yeah.
This is the increase we've agreed upon, and we're willing to now sign maybe a 1-year contract to that effect. And you would now lock in that person. So when you're able to do that now, you accomplish 2 things. You have a constant contract for a long period of time, or a 1-year contract, which allows her a steady flow of income. And you now build your reputation through word of mouth. Because what he will say to persons is, well, this young lady came in and she started off at $1. After a month or so, she asked me to raise it to $1.75. And I was skeptical, but when I raised it to $1.75, the value of output I got for $1, thinking I'll get it for $1.75, I got more. And he's going to tell his next friend and tell someone else. And word of mouth, even though social media is great, word of mouth is still one of the best forms of advertising.
Would you advise employers to have a system where the public rate their service?
Yes,
You would advise them?
I would. And not only the public, your peers.
Okay.
Because it's something I have in my own companies where I have other co-workers, and I tell them it's not snitching. We have this philosophy as if, let's say, Mr. George was to call me and say, Mr. Campbell, how do you think Miss Wells did today? Well, and they say, no, I should go feel as a snitch. Now, if I was to come on and say, well, Mr. George, to be honest, I think Aisha could have probably whatever. And he comes to you now with the right approach for you to improve yourself, and you understand that he has your best interest at heart, it will work out.
It will help, yeah.
If you're arrogant and you telling me to do my job, I'm to then stay the snitch, then now there's animosity within the workplace, because we don't understand that it's an environment where this program, for example, we need each other to coexist. You cannot interview me if I'm not here. I cannot be interviewed by you if I'm not here.
Gotcha.
So if we have this good working relationship where we can learn from each other, maybe the call is the other way around. Let's say the first time I showed up here, I wasn't attired properly, and you didn't like it. And you pulled me aside after the interview, and you said, here with Mr. Campbell, I really think for our next interview, I'd like you in a shirt and tie. I may be of the opinion, well, that's not really important for me. And then you'd now leave me alone. You'll now know, look, I can't teach him anything. His teachable index is very low. So what is going to happen? I'm going to stay within that bracket. Maybe you had another interview you wanted me to be a part of. Maybe you wanted me to meet Mr. George. You never know what a person's intention
What
is.
the intentions were.
Correct.
And because I was unwilling to take advice, I may have lost out on a better opportunity.
Correct.
What advice would you give employees? Because we only are talking about employers, and I have
Right.
employees messaging me on the chat.
Right.
How to upgrade their services going forward, especially if they're applying for jobs.
Well, learning online is one way. I also believe in taking responsibility. My mother used to say to me, she probably still says it, you would remember those windows long time where they had like 50 panes? I remember this very distinctly. I could have been about 8 or 9 years old, and I was cleaning it, quarreling, oh, mom, you want me to clean these window panes? And my mother came over to me and she said, whatever you're doing, do it to the best of your ability. And that stuck with me throughout the years. So it's the same thing. If you hire me to sweep your office, I need to sweep it to the best of my ability. Maybe I have seen persons not just take the broom, they take on old stockings and they add it to the base of the broom. Now, I may have done it in 8 buildings and no one noticed it. I may show up here and you may watch it and you may say, wait, Mr. Campbell, what's that on the bottom of that broom? Oh, I like that concept. And maybe you're a marketing genius. Before you know it, we have the invention of the Swiffer.
Listen, I will give them some advice as well as an employer hiring person. Your social media demeanor says a lot about you.
Most
Let
definitely.
me just say that.
And your handles as well.
Listen, most of my applications are done online,
Okay.
via our Facebook page or our website. So what comes to us is your Facebook page if you applied via Facebook, or your email handles if you applied via email. So if I am going through a list of applicants and your name is freakygal56@gmail.com, I may pass you by.
Yeah,
And
you
don't
just
laugh because
might.
I've had that.
Trust me, I know what that is like. I've seen it. What about when you ask an employee for their name, and let's say, well, I'm good-looking Rasta. Excuse me, can I have your name, please? Yeah, good. What happens to good-looking Rasta? Sir, I apologize. I cannot put good-looking Rasta on the form. I've had that. I've had persons giving me their sobriquet. I mean, it just...
Listen, it's we laugh at it now,
Yeah.
but these are real situations.
Real situations,
They apply for jobs and their name is, Gangster Girl on Facebook, and you tell yourself, do I really want someone named Gangster Girl
Right.
to represent my company?
Yeah.
So your display online is very, very important. Most employers do a Facebook check on you.
I
That's
agree.
the first thing I do, before I do anything else.
You check them out on Facebook.
I don't even call your references yet.
Wow.
First thing I do is Google your Facebook page.
And see what
From your Facebook page, I can tell the type of person you are.
what you have up, what you share, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's true. Which is why I don't have a Facebook page like that. If you search for me on the internet, you find nothing other than perfection all the time, and capital certificates. And I love it that way because, unfortunately for most persons, they haven't had the luxury I have had, which is I have been trained for this position from the moment of inception. The name I was given, the lifestyle I was raised in,
Gotcha.
I was trained every day. Now, what I will also tell employees, we tend to believe, okay, starting with a salary. So, Aisha, how much you paying me? If we don't come straight out and say, well, I wanted to know so I will know how much work I have to give.
Andrea Innes is saying dress code is important. So true, they
Very
show
is.
up for work.
Yeah,
Or they show up for an interview and you look at them and you tell yourself, okay,
yeah.
you left home like this?
I can give you stories of places I've worked, gone to work, where the bosses would have said to me, we're not sure which job you came for. Because I'm overdressed. I have
You dress like the CEO.
like the CEO. I've gone to the bank, I'm in the line, and they have the tellers walk around asking you for help. And I've had people walk up to me, excuse me, sir, could you please, excuse me, I don't work in the bank. But because of the way I'm
Because of the way you're
yes,
dressed,
they
yeah.
believe that. And it's happened many times. I've gone to business places as a customer, and they believe, no, he has to be the owner. I show you, and a guy is telling me he's convinced that I'm the boss. I said, no, sir, I don't work here. I don't even know who the owner is because of the way I attire
Got you.
myself and the way
Attire is important.
it really is. And you see, what we need to understand also, when you want a job, you need to know your why.
Got you.
I had told my employees this. What is your why for coming out to work? If you need a salary, then say you need a salary. If your reason for working is to take care of your family, then do that. It should always be, your why should always be your reason behind your working. And if your basis is a salary, 9 out of 10 times you're not going to stay. Because you're always looking for more money. And I can tell you, based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and any other psychology that you study, even if I give you more money, you still don't know what to do. You still function at the same. I have worked at business places, other companies before, before me getting into the family business of running and operating a business. And you understand that persons, employers especially, look for persons who not just after the dollar. You would think, well, okay, an employer doesn't want to pay you the most that he could. But why should he start with money? If you're going to come with money, then I would only deal with you on the basis of money. But what value are you going to add to the company? What business are you going to bring to it? I have worked at a company where I started out as a driver, and they had me dealing with irate customers. That's all I did whole day. I got paid to deal with irate customers, and I wasn't hired for that because of my personality type. The boss said,
I could see people screaming at you and you so calm, like,
yeah, excuse me, sir. I had a lady like that, and I wait for her to finish scream. And I spoke very softly, so softly that she had to come to me to understand what I was saying. And she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She said, "I'm embarrassing you." I said, "No, maybe it's Friday, right?" And we started to chat. Before you knew it,
the situation had quelled itself,
and that was it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, now that company didn't have that position before I started working there. Now they have a position for that where they have.
They benefited from the calmness. I would have do it too.
Yeah, and then now with all the advent of social media, you don't want an irate customer cussing and carrying on in your establishment. It just doesn't bode well. It gives off a bad energy to your business. So you can go into a company and you can create a position for yourself if you so desire. Yeah. And I have worked there, and very rarely I ask what my salary is. When they talk work overtime, I don't ever say, well, what's the overtime rate?
Vince Joseph is saying an employer shouldn't be looking at anyone's Facebook page. All they need is their email.
Well, I disagree with that. I think you need to know all about a person. If I am hiring anyone, I don't look at their resume. The way I speak to you, I can get that sort of energy. Depending on your religious background, you'll call it discernment of spirits. But you're able to get a feedback from a person just based on when you're talking to them.
I want to say to Vince as well, the U.S. Embassy asks you, as part of your application process for your visa, what are your social media pages? And you are expected to list every single social media page you are on and platform. And the reason for doing that is so they can screen your social media pages and those platforms yourself. Now, they didn't come out and tell you they're searching your Facebook page. Mm-hmm. But why else would they want to know what your Facebook page is and what platforms you're on?
Correct.
The reality is we live in a real world where people's personality comes out online. You hire someone and they're one way in front of you, and then when you go on their Facebook page, they support terrorism or they support pornography
or child abuse.
So domestic violence, and then you realize you have a problem on your hands.
Mm-hmm.
So while I understand that you think, your Facebook page should be something that is private, for an employer, it's a system in knowing the type of person you are, because persons will be one way in front of their employer and another way online. And if you are representing their company, they just want to make sure that they're not buying cat in bag.
Exactly. And you do. From the moment you put on that uniform, you represent the company and you walk out there. And I remember when there was a sense of pride when you were walking on a Friday, you'd see everyone with their name tags out and you'd see their IDs on their shirts or their jerseys. And they walked with such pride knowing that, look, I work at this company and I represent this company. Now, the emphasis is a little bit different, whereas, as you rightly said, persons don't even address themselves by their names.
Yeah.
I would come to introduce myself to you and I'll say, it's all good looking Rasta, which is not my name.
Kiara says if someone applies for a job and their Facebook page is private, will that be an issue? No. If I go through Facebook and I realize Kiara, Facebook page is private, I'll leave it alone. Mm-hmm. I'd look at your profile pic. Or maybe Google search you and see what Google finds. Because even if your Facebook page is private and you would have logged into any other account, Google will show, well, you have an Instagram page or you have a Twitter page, and then I'll probably click on those. But yeah, if it's private, then it's private.
Yeah.
Put your page private if you don't want your employers to look.
True.
Yeah, be mindful tattoos and their placements can hinder employment. Do you agree with this?
With tattoos, to some degree, I mean, if you're working in an office and you're properly attired, where you may or may not have a tattoo. I mean, if you have one on your face, it might be...
Or earring in your nose or earring in your tongue. You see that a lot these days.
Yeah, you see that a lot. But what I've noticed, for me, being a male, I guess it's probably different for females. Men tend to relax more or behave themselves better when a female or anyone is properly dressed, as opposed to a person who is... They don't look the part. So if a person is well dressed to come to work in their shirts and tie, the uniform, they sort of give that respect, which is what you want as a female. We always have these issues of, females being respected. No, it's not fair, it's not right. But when a female is, a lot of makeup on, a lot of different things, nose earrings and all these things, the men tends to get out of hand. They don't see her anymore as a person they need to get information from, or maybe a cashier to pay for a service. They now go in to treat her as if she was hanging out. And I've seen it personally, because the man standing up in front of them doesn't see them as they should. And that is something that employers, is something that we face, because we get that phone call, well, boss, so-and-so was in today and they were very disrespectful. And they would have dealt with another female who was dressed in a blouse and a shirt jack, and they didn't cross any lines. They were very much articulate and to the point. So it is a give and take, I guess. For me, depending on the forum you're in, I would think your attire should be appropriate.
If your employer is a male, and let's just say as a female you are scantily dressed, the employer may consider, and I'm just saying, I've seen it in the past, whether you can be a liability to his company, or whether there can be any claims of harassment from his other male employees on your part. Remember, as an employer, you trying to find a no-stress way to get your job done.
Exactly.
And if you come to work, or you come to an interview dressed in a particular way, and let's just say 50% of my staff is male, and you walking through the hall, you might bunk somebody, you might ting somebody, and then badam, I get a sexual harassment suit in my tail, I may think twice.
You would.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. So and that's a very, interesting topic, because we've had the issues of women, not only in the workplace, just normal society, dressed to go out, and they've been harassed and call names, have to call the police, reach to the police station, call their husbands or boyfriends, brothers, to come to their aid because of the way in which they're dressed. I mean, I am more of a free, open-minded person, mainly because I have a lot of sisters and I grew up around females, so it's not an issue for me whether you come to work in a bikini. Can you get the job done in a bikini is what I'm interested in. But in terms of the holistic approach of the company, as you rightly pointed out, you're going to be a distraction to my way workers.
Come on, I have 15 males on the floor, and you walking up and down with this big bottom all, and
exactly. They're going to be so right. And then now they would say, well, okay, that's being treated unfairly, but it's no different than you walking into a room with lions and you have a gazelle parading and expect the lions not to attack.
April says that's exactly what I'm speaking about. I've seen individuals with money symbol tattooed on their faces. So she's talking about tattoos on your faces in the workplace. Andrea said, I've had etiquette training in my class in getting a job and carrying oneself on the job. So people are enjoying this conversation. They are very interactive, I must say that. So Leinster, as we continue to narrow it down, we're almost out of time, 15 minutes to the hour of 6 o'clock.
Wow.
How do you want us to bring this evening's program to a close?
I want to speak to the employees a little bit. Now, I've had this discussion many times where employees don't understand or respect the spaces that they're in. They look at what Aisha is wearing, what Aisha is driving, and they believe that, Aisha's job is more important than mine. And now there's a competition.
Can we take a call?
Sure, we can.
Let's see who's on the line. Caller, you're live. Sorry, we lost you. Feel free to call back. Go ahead.
Yes. They feel, well, Aisha's job is more important than mine, so the thing is to try to oust Aisha and, get her fired or get rid of her. What I would say to those persons, if you think about the way an engine works, the engine itself is very expensive. Let's say an engine...
the call is back.
It's back, okay.
Caller, you live?
Yes, Aisha.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I hear you now. Listening to your conversation, and I'm happy to hear what you all are saying. But I see my children, they are working in some company, and I
Robert!
treat you like if it's yours. Because when you treat it, you work like if the job is yours, you have a job. that the company will not close down and everything will be able to go right. Okay, and punctuality is something that I really stick for. You heard me?
Yes, I heard you. Thank you so much for calling in, Tanti. I really appreciate your call. Let's see who's there. Caller, you live. Caller, you live.
Yes, hello, good day.
Yes, caller, you live.
Yeah, I have a question to your guest there. Good day. I noticed another thing one person
It
applying
was
for
very
jobs.
interactive today.
They always get too now because of something called overqualified. What do you understand by the term overqualified? I mean to say if you have 9 passes and you probably do some outside courses and stuff like that, and sometimes you might have some interesting subjects, but the company will not hire you because you're overqualified. Could you explain that to the public, please?
Thank you so much.
And how I could like that could get something, is
Thank you. What does overqualify mean?
Well, it's a term I've heard before, and I think it may be a way for companies to cop out from hiring someone. Well, you're overqualified. The truth of the
They
matter
use it
is,
a lot in Trinidad, by the way.
yeah, and I think personally it's a cop out because I want a person who's more overqualified to work for me. Now, it can have its pros and its cons in terms of a person who's overqualified. Let's say you're on the radio. My radio station has now started out, and I said, okay, Aisha, after your program, I would like you to wipe down the console and probably just clear the messages before you leave. Who do you think he is? I am Aisha Wells, I work on this reason, this reason. So it has its pros and its cons, and I think in the workplace, if you go for a job, I have gotten jobs without the employer even seeing my resume because of the way I would have made them to understand that here is where I want to be.
Yeah.
I need whatever training in this particular area, or look, I just need a job. I need to have income coming in on the regular. I need to have something to do. And if it's the right job for you, you would get it. You go to a company and they tell you you're overqualified, I would say move on to the next one. Because looking at your qualifications, I've looked at resumes, and the resume doesn't tell me how you work in a practical situation.
Gotcha.
And most jobs require you to be practical. What you would have learned in the classroom, you now have to put it out there in the workplace, in the day-to-day. I can learn everything about the console, but just like you were going through just now, if the call isn't coming through, what am I going to do next?
Lystra Sylvan said, what about if they ask you for experience and you just came out of school?
Mm-hmm.
You've seen situations like that. They ask for experience, but you don't have experience because you just finished school.
You just finished school. That's another thing that persons say. Because you don't have experience and they tell you need to get it. And this is why I emphasize you need to train your staff. So I would say, look, I want to work on a radio station. But, hey, do you have experience? No. Okay, next. But are you willing to learn? A person who's willing to learn and for me to teach them and give them the values would be better. But if the job may require you to be experienced immediately, well then obviously you'd have to figure out some sort of creative way, which is why I have admonished, do it for free. So you need to work on the radio station, maybe take a job at another radio station or a smaller one that would take you on a Friday evening or a Friday night where they don't need so much of a more skilled person, and you start gaining experience.
And you wouldn't believe that is how Pastor Google started on radio.
See?
Google started on a radio first as someone calling into radio,
Mm-hmm.
and was recommended by me after I realized after our first interactions with him that he's somebody I like how he thinks. I
Right.
recommended him to Iowa, and we started Google on the night shift.
Mm-hmm.
Google started from midnight. We'll take your call 1 minute. Google started from midnight and he went all the way to 5 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
And listen, one night I get up to use the bathroom midnight, and my radio on, and hear daytime callers calling Google 12 o'clock in the night. I had to wonder about what time it is.
You
The
see?
man had a whole session on a night time, and I
I-
was saying, nah, it's time to move Google to the day.
To the daytime, correct.
And that's how he started. Caller, you live.
Aisha was today.
How you doing, Brooklyn?
But Aisha, touching on the experience part, because that was going through my head, right? And Mr. Len was very correct, with what he said. What I do a lot of times, because what I do here, we hire people we look for people for experience. We also, if you don't have experience, what we do, we give you a 2 weeks training period, right? And within that training period, you have a certification after. Once you pass the certification test and the whole field work was completed, you would get the job because you would be able to gain the experience that we are looking for. You understand? And also, just with an interview, just if you claim to have experience, just by you coming to me and sitting on an interview and we speaking and I'm asking you questions about the job, depending on how you answer me, I would know immediately if you have the experience that we are looking for or not, without even having to put you through the test. And again, Aisha, today in the age of technology, any work you're looking for, you could go on YouTube and gain experience, over time. So then it's even easier for you to gain experience in certain field that you are looking for. So good program, Aisha. You're listening.
Thank you so much. I tell you, they enjoying this one today.
Yeah. And what you can also do, let's say I wanted to work at a radio station and I came in and you said, look, Lance, I can't hire you, don't have any experience. No one, I'm sure, asks, what experience exactly are you looking for? Yeah. Maybe you need me to be experienced on the operation of the console, behind the scenes camera technician. So what I would do now, as the gentleman, I think it's Mr. Brooklyn, you call him, I would go on Google, go on YouTube, and I would try to gain some experience. I try to get myself another interview within a 2 or 3 week period.
You remember the first time you did a radio interview here?
Yes, I did.
You were nervous?
I was very nervous. I'd never been on the radio before.
I remember.
Nor was I thinking I would have been on the radio, so I was not prepared.
Gotcha.
However, because as I would have always said to persons, I've always been working. The knowledge is already there. I didn't need to. I remember one time they told us, we're prompted. You calling me on a Sunday evening and we're prepping for Thursday. But because of the wealth of knowledge that I have stored inside of me and your experience as an interviewer, you're a great interviewer, by the way, we're able to have that natural flow as if we've been doing it for years.
Sometimes I'm not even here and you have a whole show without me.
Yes, we have.
A whole show.
Yeah, with Mr. Roger.
You know?
Yeah, Robert, sorry.
So we just have about a minute to go. I'm going to allow you to make your closing comments.
Yes, well, again, my name is Leinster Campbell from Len Capital Certificates. I would like to thank everyone for listening today. Now, the name of our program, which was named by Miss Aisha Wells, is called The Billionaire Mindset. The reason it's called The Billionaire Mindset, because to become a billionaire, you need to have the correct mindset. And we don't only mean billionaire as in dollars and cents, but in any aspect of your life which you wish to achieve the highest form, you would need to have the correct mindset.
Calls are still coming in, but
yes.
We are out of time. I promise you next week we will do less talking, take more calls because people want to get in.
Sure.
Give them your numbers where they can reach you during the week, and of course, liaise with you.
Yes, our numbers are 324-LEN, that is 324-5366. Feel free to reach out to us anytime, Monday to Friday during the hours of 9 to 5, or you can reach us also on Saturdays between 9:30 a.m. to 12:30. Yes, we have an opportunity on Saturdays. And guys, let me tell you, Leinster Campbell and myself is getting into the communities. We're going to be coming to you, so you don't have to come to us. We're going to tell you a little bit about that as the weeks go by. Yes, we will.
We're still in the planning stages. But
yes,
if I tell you, this is going to be big, and you need to be a part of this one. So stay tuned for that. 26 seconds before we head on out. Thank you for being with us today, Leinster
Thank you for having me.
We look forward to having another show next Friday. Remember to contact Len Capital Certificates today because they are all about you.
That's correct.
That I better watch what I say, watch what I do. Remember to pray, watch how I move. I got too much at stake, so I cannot lose. In this game that we play, I got something to prove, and I had